Are you ready to crack the code on closing bigger deals and landing better clients? Welcome to The Closing Code, the podcast for sales pros and agency owners who want to master the art of selling high-ticket digital marketing services. In each episode, your hosts, Clinton James and Josh Konigsberg, bring you real-world strategies, actionable insights, and proven tactics to help you level up your sales game. No fluff, no gimmicks, just the tools you need to win more deals and build a thriving agency. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh Konigsberg.
I'm Clinton James, and welcome to The Closing Code, folks.
Today, in today's episode, it's all about simplifying to amplify, how trimming down your sales deck can actually help you close more deals.
So, Josh, this is a subject that's come up a few times in the mastermind group that we work in. I've seen some of the best looking sales decks presented to me. And now, thanks to tools like Canva, it's even easier to make these absolutely gorgeous sales decks. But what I found is just what you said earlier. Sometimes less is more, right? These polished sales decks could be getting in the way of you or your sales team's ability to come across as genuine and close more business. What are your thoughts on that, Josh?
Well, let me say this. Do you know what the average attention span is during a pitch deck presentation?
Oh, man, it can't be long.
It's less than 10 minutes. So if your deck is 30 slides or more, most of it never even gets seen.
I've seen some pretty lengthy decks, and I believe that.
So what if cutting your deck by 50% actually increased your close rate? How about that?
I love that.
So what could you do? So, and then there's an old adage when it comes to writing, right? Writing copy or writing a book and even on a website, take everything you wrote and cut it in half, and then take that and cut it in half again and watch what happens. Okay, because we all think that everyone wants to hear what we have to say.
As someone that talks a lot, I think I bring a lot of value, so I think people want to hear what I have to say. But you're probably right, Josh. Probably right. Less would be a little bit more.
Sure. How about if you ask and listen? There's a concept, right? So,
It's fair.
the old saying, right? God, I used to say this to my son all the time. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
2 ears, 1 mouth. Right.
For a reason. So the same holds true. And so I personally don't use a pitch deck. What about yourself, Clinton?
I have completely gotten away from the deck. Now I do want to show visuals when I do a sales presentation, right? But as opposed to like a polished sales deck with my company logo on there and all the bells and whistles and charts, I've gotten away from that. Literally, I can pitch anyone from a web browser, right? I've got everything that I need to do to use in a web browser to completely sell my company, my services, and really give them a reason to do some business with me.
Now, how long are your strategy sessions typically? The duration?
Now that ranges because, as we mentioned earlier, I like to talk, right? So my strategy sessions usually don't really start until we're probably about 5-10 minutes into the phone conversation, right? I
Well, that's
spend a
building rapport, right?
Yeah, I spend a great deal of time, and I've over the years, I've really done a good job of crafting a personal narrative, right? I talk to them about who I am, who I've worked with, how long I've been working with companies in this specific niche, share some of my wins. When I get done with that, they understand me and they really look at me as a peer in their industry as opposed to a vendor that they're going to be using, right? And I think that's important. I think the pitch is better received when they view you as somebody who's a specialist in their industry and not just another vendor.
That 100% right. So your length varies. Would that be from 30 minutes to 60 minutes or 60 minutes to 90 minutes?
Yeah, I'd say probably 45 to 60 minutes. And that's if the call does turn into a one call close, you're probably going to add another 10-15 minutes so I can get the information necessary.
Okay, great. And as you know, well, I don't use a pitch deck either, and mine is a combination. I create what I call a digital marketing brief in the legal space. Obviously, a brief, that terminology um, exemplifies value for the attorneys because they know how much work it takes to create a legal brief, right? So that's why I chose to use that wording. So I create the brief and I bounce in and out of that brief into a browser. So I also have some screen captures of what their current situation is, so we can decipher what their digital footprint looks like, and I can educate them on how we can improve it. And then I bounce in and out of that to into case studies and other digital assets that I'll have open for them. So
So one of the things I'm thinking, Josh, is we probably have an audience full of people that have become accustomed to using a deck that they spent a lot of time developing, and I don't know that they're necessarily ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right?
that's right.
So maybe we can talk a little bit about what we show our clients, and maybe give them some opportunities to take some of the things that they're presenting in the deck and just do it via a web browser, right? And when I say a web browser, I'm not talking about Google Slides and then just using that to display. No, I'm literally talking about using real-time searches, real-time customer dashboards, and other items like that that really improve your credibility with the prospect, because you're not using a polished case study that they may or may not believe. You're actually giving them some insight as to a working campaign that you're currently managing and what kind of results it's delivering for your
That's
clients.
how I do it. We go right into our analytics dashboard, and they can see real time of what a similar size, similar type of law firm is achieving, what kind of results they're getting. So that
Uh,
seems to work really well. So um, what I see is salespeople over relying on the slide deck to do the heavy lifting, right? And it often becomes either overwhelming or boring to the prospect. Wouldn't you agree with that?
100%. And sometimes it literally feels like they're reading the information on the slide. I'm like, hey, if you're just going to read the information on the slide, you could have emailed me the slide. I could have read it myself and made a purchasing decision. Right.
Or you could have turned it into a webinar and just sent them the recording,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then you could repurpose it, but that's not gonna close you any deals in my opinion.
Yep.
So
100%.
so so, uh, recently read about what happens when we see the same thing over and over and over again in marketing and advertising. So when you see the same ad over and over and over again, what do you do?
Well, it depends on the ad, right?
Of course.
Yeah. I do think you need to, somebody has to see a half a dozen times before they might necessarily take action there. But I don't want to see the same messaging from every company in that space, right? I don't want to see the exact same creatives, the exact same ad copy.
So what happens is we begin to just tune it out, right? We begin to ignore it. And that is actually going back hundreds of thousands of years in evolution. And if we go back to our monkey brain, and here's why. So let's just say the hunter gatherers back in the day were out hunting, and what caught their attention, where they're gathering up, they're out picking berries and whatever. What would interrupt them? Remember, a key component to marketing is the interrupt, right? And I'm going somewhere with all this. And that, as a matter of fact, I'm old enough to remember the early days of TV when they would say, "We're going to interrupt this broadcast to bring you a message from our sponsor." They're telling you that they're interrupting you, right? So, what would interrupt caveman from his Mr. and Mrs. Caveman from picking berries? When the saber-toothed tiger would catch their attention, that's the interrupt, right?
Right.
Because our monkey brains are wired for safety. Right? So in your if your prospects are used to seeing the same blah, blah, blah pitch decks, same thing's gonna happen, and you're
Yeah.
gonna lose them faster.
100%
So
agrees. All right. So, Josh, let's talk a little bit about like the opening credits, right? The opening scene of the movie. Like, let's look at a sales presentation as kind of like a movie there. What is the first visual that a prospect sees when he shows up for a strategy session with Josh?
I open up to there's 2 things I do. So the first screen they see immediately is their website.
Okay.
Oh, so that and the reason I do that is because it makes them feel a little bit more comfortable. Subliminally, they know that I've seen their website. because I'm going to do some website analytics, right?
I like that.
I'm going to poke under the hood. The second thing they see when I open up my digital marketing brief, which is seconds, I actually have the cover of the digital marketing brief is a photograph of their city. It's like a cityscape.
Oh,
I
that's
will actually
brilliant.
right. So, because familiarity breeds trust, right?
100%.
So I just did one yesterday for Chicago. It was a beautiful evening shot with the sunset glittering off the glass of all the high rises and skyscrapers. Beautiful. So they see, wow, that's Chicago. And you know what they're thinking? Oh, my office is only a couple blocks from there. And let's just say it's a smaller town, right? Like my office is in Jupiter, Florida. Everybody that lives in Jupiter knows the Jupiter Lighthouse. So I would have a real maybe the sunrise over around the Jupiter Lighthouse or something, or some evening with the lighthouse light going or something.
That's
So
really smart. I think I might steal that and incorporate that. Right now, after and I usually all these sales demos are happening via Zoom. So usually when I start the Zoom, it's something like this. It's just me and them. There's no visual, right? This is where if I haven't talked to them before, introduce myself, introduce my agency, give them that personal narrative. And then immediately when I start the screen share, it always lands at the same place. It is a map of the United States that has points, bullet points, every place that I currently have a client. And it's impressive, right? Because we got over
yeah, sure.
130 restoration
How many
companies.
clients do you have?
A little over 130 right now.
Okay, so for the agency that doesn't have that, they don't have that option, right?
Mhm.
So for them, maybe employing a similar strategy to what I do might help.
Yeah.
Might be another alternative.
100%. Now, when I have that map in front of them, then I'm just restating something that I said earlier. And I always downplay it, right? I know 130 specific clients in a niche. That's not bad, right? But they don't know that. So I downplay it. I say, I've only been at this for about 8 years, got roughly about 130, 140 restoration companies across the country. So you see all those dots on that map. That's places that I'm currently running campaigns for restoration companies. And it is, to me, it's an instant builder of credibility. They're not going to be the first person that's ever gone down this path that I've delivered results for there. Now, from there, I kind of piggyback on what you say. I jump to their website because then we're going to spend a few minutes talking about their business, the good, the bad, the ugly, the services that they provide, the vendors that they've used in the past for digital marketing, what's working, what's not working, all of those things. And this is where I'm already know these pain points, but this is where I'm going to make them hurt. Right. And I'll do a quick little audit of the website. We'll talk about the things that aren't good. Where's the call to action? Do they have not just service pages? Do they also have city pages for the major metropolitan areas in their service area there? Do they have a blog? Why is a blog important? Because none of their prospects are reading blogs, but Google indexes that information, right? So we'll spend a couple minutes kind of picking at those warts. And then I immediately take them to, I use Google's anonymous ad preview tool. For those of you not familiar with it, you can do a Google search and you can tell Google where you want to act like you are physically located when you do that Google search. So I'll pick the primary city in their area, and most of these restoration companies aren't showing up on page one. They're not showing up in local service ads. They don't have any sponsored links going. They're not in the map pack. They're certainly not in the organic listings there. And to have that visual where I talk about all the places that they should be if they want to get emergency jobs, to have that visual where they're actually looking at their competitors and not themselves, that's really powerful. It's another way to emphasize that pain point there.
So that's really good. I do that actually. First and foremost, I take their most expensive click keyword
Mhm.
that they don't even know. So I let them know that, hey, if you're looking for in your market, did you know that a personal injury attorney is $375 a click? So they get to see that. So I break down the page for them. I show them this is your search engine results page. So first, we're going to look at your local service ads. Then we're going to look at the PPC. Then we're going to look at Google Business Profile and then organic. And what I do is I swing them back into the maps. So, and with Google Business Profile, I explain to them how it works. And I take a deep dive in that no one else has done with them, explaining what it takes and how the Google algorithm works to get into the map and what we do differently than our competitors to get them there. Because later I'm going to show them, I say it, and I say, I'm going to show you how on average, 65% of my clients get their leads from Google Business Profile. So I
I
want to
like
focus. I want to focus on that. And then I start to tear apart the deficiency. And again, I'm going in and out of this digital marketing brief, and I jump into a um, a report that shows them what a listing report of all the directories that either have errors in NAP or they're not in at all, and that's crushing them. And I also teach them how that works, how the Google algorithm works. Um, so for me, it's important. And remember, they're attorneys; they're more well educated in most cases, right? Maybe not necessarily, but we can safely say that most of the professional services are going to be more well educated. So they're going to want to know more. They're going to naturally want to know. Now, some of them, if they're an appellate attorney, they're going to want to know every little thing because that's what appellate attorneys do. They tear apart cases and rebuild them. Um, so um, I think they enjoy it. And I didn't say this earlier, but my strategy sessions are 2 hours. So
wow.
right, I'm getting 2 hours, so but they're not bored, they're intrigued because I take them down this educational path, and I've been doing it long enough to know what's gonna work to keep their attention. So,
Do you find that
uh,
the longer that you're on the phone with a prospect, the more likely you are to actually close business?
I don't think there's a correlation.
Okay.
I can tell you that if I'm on there for for an hour, I've actually been asked to keep it to an hour, and, I can tell you I close less because I just don't have enough time for them to really grasp. W They have to understand why we do what we do the way we do it, the cadence with which we do it, why we reprioritize doing it our way, and we like to use the chocolate cake recipe. I've said it before, so I can go to a restaurant A and have some dessert, and the chocolate cake is tremendous. I can go to a different restaurant, have chocolate cake, and it's tremendous. What are the chances those recipes are the same?
0 to none.
There you go. Both great chocolate cakes, right? So our recipe happens to be an award-winning recipe. So we won Agency of the Year. I get to say that. So we're an award win I've got a bunch of other awards. They're on the wall behind me.
Mm.
Right? So we have the world's best chocolate cake. You need to understand our recipe. Now, other people are gonna come in and say, you should probably add some sugar to that. Or the way I make my chocolate cake, it has less flour and more eggs. Well, that's not gonna work, is it?
No. As a matter of fact, if you have a client or a prospect that shows up to the sales call that's telling you how to tweak your recipe, that is a recipe for disaster, my friend. They have to allow you and your agency to execute on what you know is going to deliver the result that they are looking for, right?
So, and unfortunately, and again, we're a little bit off track, but unfortunately, we all deal with the deficiency marketing. And this person said this. I just dealt with this last week, by the way. Somebody dropped a website into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT told them everything that was wrong with our website. Meanwhile, they're ranking number one in Google for like 500, 600 keywords. What's wrong with that?
Those chat GPT audits are not good. They told us one of our websites didn't have any metadata on the homepage there, and I was like, well, that absolutely did not happen. So we ran an audit in it, showed it to the client. Client apologized. It was fine.
Right.
All
So,
right, so so we talked a little bit about the way we start the calls, how we transition to identifying pain points from the client, showing them where they should, what the digital asset is that's going to take to generate the lead flow that they are looking for. Let's talk a little bit about case study data, because case study data and showing a prospect that you have delivered the kind of results that they are looking for is really key to being a really
not just
effective closer.
what it's not what you it's not just what you've delivered. It's a before and after,
Yeah, I love that.
right?
So walk our audience through. Again, most people do this in a deck, right? They have a fancy deck that says, "Hey, here's Bob's ABC company. Here's where Bob was in terms of revenue. Bob worked with us for 6 months. Here's what we did for Bob, and this is where Bob was 6 months later. Here's what Bob was 12 months later." Right? Anyone could create any company, any concept, and create a case study, and that prospect, do they believe it? Do they know that to be true? Did they know Bob? Do they know Bob's business? So that's why I got away from the graphics, the decks, the beautiful illustrations of the things that we did for our clients, and I just use we've got these dashboards, we've got Google Analytics, we've got call tracking metrics. We just show actual client data. Like, this is real-time data. These are the calls that we're generating. These are the calls that turned into on-site visits. These are the calls that turned into jobs. And for me, that's much more effective in terms
Yeah.
of building credibility than any case study I've ever seen in a deck.
And again, I'm bouncing in and out of those analytics, and as well, we use agency analytics, so they get a nice capture of what's going on the call volume from, let's say, the last 6 months, the last 12 months, and I can obviously change the date parameters. But I also, and I just did this yesterday because we all know that reviews are so important today, right?
Mhm.
So I just showed someone yesterday that, look, and it's a side by side graphic in the client's dashboard. When they started with us 3 years ago, they had 15 reviews. Their average star rating was 4.38 or something.
Okay.
Now they've got 275 reviews with a 4.9 rating. That's a
Love it.
great before and after graphic. And if they wanna see a deeper dive, I can go right in and show them every review that we've gotten since the moment in time. There's actually another, this dashboard's incredible. It shows another from the time when Google started tracking reviews on Google. This is just Google reviews. Do you know what date that was?
Have no idea.
March in 2012.
How do you
So
know that, Josh? That's like one of those, like, Jeopardy answers.
so this graphic has columns for every single month since Google started tracking reviews in March in 2012, right? And so you see a flat line graph, and then you see a little bump and a little bump and a little bump. And then in, I'll say, February of 2022, you see this line graph do this. Oh, I hit my microphone. It just goes, you can see when that client signed up with us. So there's a before and now a clear indication after. Don't you want a reputation just like this?
Man, that is 100% more impactful than somebody that has 2 or 3 slides that they try to paint a picture of what happened for Bob and Bob's business, Bob
That's right.
and Bob's law firm, right? So if you've got case study data, that data exists somewhere in a dashboard. Transition from using these polished slides to actual insights into how your campaigns are performing for clients, and it will be a lot more effective for you. Now,
And it's
it's
important.
not always about the go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say it's important when you do that, and I mentioned this earlier. I changed the date parameters so they can see it's actually real data. It's real live data rather than this is a live dashboard. They don't know it's real. So if someone were to call, that call would populate immediately coming in from CallRail. So, but what are the chances of that happening, right? So,
Be surprised. Yeah, I hear that helps, right? I'm sure that would help.
oh look, they just got another lead. I sh- I should have someone on our team do that just to set it up.
So one of the things, Josh, that I'm sure our audience is thinking is like, hey, maybe I'm newer in my agency journey. I've been delivering. I've been hitting my deliverables for clients, but I don't have a whole host of case studies or a lot of dashboards that I can show a prospect. Well, they're all deliverables that you've been delivering for clients, right? So when I need to, I'll hop out of one of those dashboards and I'll take them to one of my clients' websites, right? And I'm really selective in terms of which clients I show them. I want to show them somebody that's not a competitor to them in their market, but I want to show them someone that's in a market that's similar to theirs,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to show somebody in Idaho what I'm doing for a client in Miami, right? I don't want to show somebody in New York what I'm doing for somebody that's in Albuquerque, or not even Albuquerque, but somewhere in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico, right? So you want to pick a client that's in a service area that isn't the same, but similar in terms of population, similar in terms of opportunities for that business in that area there. So I will take them out of that dashboard and I'll show them a client's websites, and then we can talk about the things that we do, the secret sauce, the deliverables that we provide that ultimately are going to create the leads that turn into new clients for our customers there. Right. So that's what I like to do. Walk them through the website, user experience, navigation bar, pages, site structure, calls to action, content, everything. How do you show that, Josh?
So again, I'm dipping in and out, right? So de facto showing them clients' websites as I'm showing them other things. So for example, I'll be showing them how our review widgets work, how we how we repurpose reviews onto websites and onto social media, but I'll get to their social media through the client's website. Also use another client's website to show them conversion points. The vast number of clients that we acquire have too few conversion points on the homepage. So again, this is a live case study on an existing client's website. So I don't know how many conversion points you put on your sites, but I'll tell you what we do. But I want to hear how you handle that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tell me,
yeah.
because I'm thinking like I'd have to go through every
Okay.
page
This is
on our
so
website.
important. So here's what I say. This is a great hack for everybody out there, and everybody unless everyone except the people in the law firm niche can use this. Uh, I I typically see somewhere between 4, 5, 6 conversion points. Conversion point is going to be either a click to call, a web form, or a chatbot. Okay, I'm not counting subscribe to our newsletter as a conversion point.
No.
Well, technically it is, but I'm not counting that.
Okay.
Our websites have somewhere between 10 and 14 conversion points on the homepage. So here's how I describe it to them. Again, just to stick the knife in and then twist it. So let's just role play Clinton. Let's just say, and again, this is all done live. So Clinton, you're telling me right now that with ABC cheapo law firm marketing, that you're investing $10,000 a month, and you've got 5 conversion points on your homepage. How many conversions do you want to lose?
I don't want to lose any.
Imagine that. So you've got 5, and I'm showing you someone in a similar type of law. They have 14 on our websites. How many do you think they're losing compared to how many you're losing?
A lot less.
To me, it's website 101,
Yeah.
right?
Agree.
So what I did was I just devalued their existing agency without devaluating.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. All right, Josh, before we get to the next step, which is actually suggesting programs, showing ROI calculators, let's take a quick break and let's hear from our sponsors.
Great. Running an agency is demanding, and as you know, the process of interviewing, hiring, and training new team members is both time-consuming and costly. It can even hold back your agency's growth. We have found a game-changing solution in a company called Virtrify. Just like cracking the code to closing deals, finding the right talent is essential to your success. Virtrify partners with digital marketing agency owners to help them scale faster by providing bilingual appointment centers and salespeople from Latin America. As an agency owner, your time is best spent growing the business, not getting stuck in the process of hiring and training. Virtrify's staffing solution frees you up from those time-consuming tasks so you can focus on scaling. Ready to delegate and grow? Visit virtrify.com/closing code to find pre-trained salespeople who are experts in the closing code way. Let's build your high-performance sales team together.
All right, everybody, we're back talking a little bit about sales presentations and what I affectionately refer to as ditching the deck, right? Getting rid of that
Yes.
well-polished sales deck that your assistant put together in Canva that you've been leaning on as a crutch to try to sell your digital marketing agency services. And listen, I know there's somebody listening right now. What are you talking about? I've been selling off of this deck for years. It works great. We bring in tons of new business. Trust me, there's a better way to do it. Okay. And I'm
And
not
we're
saying
not
abandon every deck. I'm not saying abandon every slide. If you got 1 or 2 slides that you're in love with, hey, you can use those, but bounce in and out of that slide and show them some real-time stuff on a web browser. And I'm telling you, it'll build your credibility and it'll move the needle in terms of your close rate.
Yes. And listen, slide decks are really powerful tools, and there's a place for them. And don't ditch them for your webinars, right?
Yeah.
Don't if you're doing a live seminar, don't ditch it there. But for sales presentation, you need to bounce in and out of it. So, um,
All right. So we talked a little bit about where you start, where you build credibility, where you show them some pain points, where you talk about things that you do for your clients that ultimately move the needle. And now it's time to have a conversation with them about getting them onto your program, right?
yeah.
Now, go ahead.
So you're going to use the slides as visual support. And the problem that I just want to point this out, the problem that I see most often is that they use the slide deck as the pitch deck as a script, and they're staying on script rather than reading reading the prospect, right? So again, it's just, as you just said, visual support, and actually go out in and out of the slide deck. So if there's a couple slides that you really like that give some really great visual, great, keep them, but bounce in
And
and out. But go ahead.
my sales presentations are really conversational, right? I'd love to say I follow the exact same sequence in every conversation, but prospects butt in with questions. Prospects bring up good points, right? And I'm not married to doing things in a specific sequence there. If they jump ahead and there's some value in me talking a little bit about something that I was going to cover later on in the sales presentation, I'm happy to do it, right? And working on a sales deck, you have to jump ahead 7 slides, jump back 7 slides, whereas I've got every tab open on a web browser and I know where everything is. So it's really, really easy for me to navigate that. So all right. So do you use an ROI calculator, and how do you lay out your programs for
I
somebody if
do.
you're not using a pitch deck?
I do. I do. So again, that's again bouncing in and out of my digital marketing brief. So um, I've talked about this before. I've actually shared it with the seven-figure agency. They use this as one of the model templates. So, and big shout out to Josh and Yesenia Nelson at Seven Figure Agency. They connect.
Oh, man, I'm
Point-
rocking one of their Titans hoodies
There you
today,
go.
baby. I love
And
it.
for those of you who don't know, Titan means that you're multiple seven figures. So that everyone wants to aspire to be a Titan. So the 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 well, I call it a projected revenue and forecasted budget calculator. And what that is, and you've heard
Oh,
me
that's
talk about
fancy. Say that one more time for our audience, Josh, because that is
pro-
fancy.
projected revenue and forecasted budget calculator.
I love that.
Meaning this, you can't create a plan without a budget, and you can't have a budget without knowing what the revenue is. And it has to be based on projected revenue, not actual revenue. Otherwise, it's a definition of insanity.
Mm.
So that's the first thing they see. So based on this type of law, and I'm dealing with 5 different types of laws, so depending on the type of law, the percent that they should be investing in marketing is laid out clearly, and I give them a range. So let's say for family law, it's going to be 8, 10, and 12. For immigration law, it's going to be 12 and a half, 15, 17 and a half. For PI, it's going to be 20, 22 and a half, 25%. Sometimes if they're super aggressive, it'll be 20, 25, and 30%. So that's the first thing they see. So now they know in their mind, they say, well, I know I need to be investing that much. And I say it, in order for you to achieve the goals and dreams that you share with me, to be successful, to do what you want to do, to have the quality of life that you want to have, this is what it's going to take. I've been doing this for 15 years. Trust me, this is what it's going to take. Now, then what I do is I back into a number. And again, it's just an algebraic equation. I need an anchor number, so I use PPC. So I know that if their click budget's going to be $5,000 a month, and I know that the average cost per click is $50. I know how many clicks they're going to get. I know how many conversions or some type of conversion percentage that I can go off of and show them and demonstrate that again, going out of that and back into agency analytics to take a look at the cost per click in a given market. I know what the conversion rate's going to be. And I know, and they've told me on my discovery call, how many of those convert to clients. And that comes down to a number. And then I show them the ROAS, return on ad spend. So then I take that number and I put it into a total calculator of all digital marketing. And with the goal being the more organic clicks the higher rankings I can get you, the more organic clicks you're going to get, the more organic clicks you're going to get, the more conversions, free conversions you're going to get, which is going to drive down your customer acquisition costs. How's that sound, Clinton?
I love that.
So now they get to see a number, their average. So this is the 2-year plan, even though it's only a 1-year commitment. This is what's going to take 2 years because SEO takes time and this other stuff, the halo marketing that we do and all that stuff. Then they get to see what their blended customer acquisition cost is and what not only their ROI is, but what their annual additional revenue looks like in 2 years from now. And I take that number and I go back up to the budget calculator section, and it's always within 1 to 2% of the number of the 2-year projection that they told me. Always, with the way I lay it out. So they get to see that. And then I say, okay, so based upon the fact that you have this X dollar amount to invest in your marketing. And when you get your marketing right, Clinton, I've got the perfect plan just for you. It's been working for years for other attorneys. Let me show you what you're going to get.
And
That's an assumptive close.
and honestly, they become participants in building out that calculator. They're giving you data, you're sharing with them insights, and every piece of data that they give you that leads to that price point is ultimately them making a commitment to the program. So if
Not
as active participants, they're literally buying into the program that you're laying out, and my friends, you are not going to do that with a deck.
not in the slide deck.
You're not gonna do that with a slide deck. That's why these ROI calculators, and I use Google Sheets. I used to have an Excel spreadsheet that I'd pull up, but man, Google Sheets does it all, right? So we got Google Sheets. There's a tab, there's a key tab. I can go in there, I can make changes, I can show them what kind of return on investment they're gonna get on their ad spend. On the organic stuff, we can forecast that out. And then when it's time to actually have them select a program and add-ons, you've done a masterful job of that, Josh, in your ROI calculator, right? So you're able to go and they tell you something's a little too much. Okay, well, what do we want to get rid of? So walk the audience through what that part of the process looks like.
Well, it's really very simple because now we have a range of what their budget should be. And sometimes that number makes them choke, right? But it is what it is. And I actually say this, there's a direct correlation between the amount that you're investing, the percentage that you're investing, and what you're going to get in return. There's a 100% correlation. So what I do is I will I I describe to them what I just said to you. I've got the perfect plan for you to achieve your goals and dreams. So you can have that quality of life that you told me about. So you can spend more time with your kids, take nicer vacations, whatever it is that you shared with me in our discovery call. I will then let me show you what you're going to get in the plan. And I pull up a PDF of our service menu for whatever plan that they can afford. So let's just say it's the minimum viable offer we have, which is called the associate plan. Okay. Look, everybody has budgetary constraints. I wish you could afford the whole shebang. And let me tell you, I've got multiple clients that started at this plan, and here that we are 2 and 3 years later, and now they have the whole kitchen sink. So, but let me show you what you're going to get. And I open up that PDF. It's not in a slide deck. It's a PDF, and we go through it. This is this, this is this, this is this. Then I go back to that budget calculator, and there's another tab, and that tab has the associate plan. We go right to the associate plan, and there's a budget with everything I get. It's this amount a month. However, we're a little bit below budget for you, so there's some enhancements that you can afford that I really think is going to drive the needle for you. And I've seen it happen over and over again with our most successful clients. So I'll have some enhancements in there, and boom, there's their total. And then
That's the term that you use, the enhancements. It's not add-ons, it's enhancements. Love
so
that. Love
important.
that.
Who want pile it on? No, man, I want to be enhanced. Who doesn't want to be enhanced? Vocabulary matters, right? So
That
so then what I do is I'll look at the final budget, which is going to include a click budget. So there's a total number. Then I go back to the forecasted revenue and budget calculator, and they can see the number. So they can see the percentage of where they're at. So hey, look, great news, Clinton, we're within budget. So tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being most likely, how would you rate the likelihood of law firm marketing pros and the James law firm becoming partners?
Yeah, love it. A 10, Josh, 10. Just like this episode today, just like the value I hope our audience got today, that was a 10, my friend. All right, so, kind of in wrapping up here, just some kind of things that our audience should take into consideration. Because again, man, if you used to using a slide deck in your sales presentations, going from that to going to nothing but sharing a web browser, it's going to be a little bit of a shell shock for you, which is okay, right? Sometimes you got to shake up the snow globe and do something a little different. But for those that are willing to make that transition, Josh, where should they start?
Well, a couple things I want to say. So again, it's okay to have a blended presentation. And if you're going to use a deck, design it so it sparks curiosity and not just conveys information,
I love that.
right? So that's so important. Um, and you always have to have that one powerful slide that's the showstopper, right? That is like, wow. And I actually have, it's technically not on a slide, but I have one, a case study one that I show the call volume increase over a 12-month period of time from
Mhm.
when a client started with us and 12 months later with a percent increase in call. And it's a showstopper. It's like, wow, who doesn't want to be that successful? There are some potential pitfalls. Okay. So some people need that structure, right?
Mhm.
And I get it. So, when you're an old timer like me and you,
Hey, 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 I'm not that old yet. Give me some grace here.
so, we've done this for in so many different situations and for so long, we don't need the structure, right?
Mhm.
So some people are going to need that structure, but make sure that you keep it simple and that it's not sloppy. Okay. So, and again, avoid one more thing that I see is avoid vague storytelling and make sure that you can demonstrate measurable outcomes.
I like that. I like that.
Right. So, any other takeaways that you have for today?
Man, as you transition away from the deck and go with a more screen share model, one of the things that, because I am that person, that creature of habit that likes to have, like, I've got OCD, like to have everything in an order. I simply have like a sequence in which my Google tabs line up. So I can look and know exactly which tab is about what talking point. But I know which one's their website. I know which one's their Google business profile, their search engine. Uh, I know what page, excuse me, which one's going to have my ROI calculator there. And then I know you don't close on that initial call, but I do in a lot of cases there. So I'll even have PandaDoc up where I can pull their program, walk them through a service agreement, email them the link to sign it, take their payment information, and actually get the deal closed on that call there. So that's taking it to the next level because I'm time kills all deals. And if I've got somebody that's interested in doing business with me, I want to close that deal on that spot.
100%, 100%. So, um, again, I want to reiterate that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So sometimes less is more. Less means closing more, right? Um, so next time we'll be breaking down how to handle pricing objections like a pro. So stay tuned. You're going to love that one.
Or maybe we'll sneak in an interview or two, Josh. We've got some guests on the horizon. I think the audience would love to listen to. But if you've listened this far, we want to thank you guys. Hope you got a lot of value out of the conversation today, Josh. As always, man, I learned so much from having these conversations with you. If you don't already, find us on social. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. We're on YouTube. We're on Instagram. Find the closing code. Follow us. And if you like the content, hey, share it with your friends because you got other people that are selling digital marketing services most likely in your circle too, right?
For sure.
Make their
For
day a little
sure.
better.
All right. So thanks for tuning in to the closing code. Unlock the code. Let me say that again. Thanks for tuning into the closing code. Unlock the code, close the deal, and we'll see you next time.
I'll see you next time, Josh.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to the podcast for more straight shooting advice on closing deals that matter. Unlock the code, close the deal, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Closing Code Podcast.